Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Welcome to Atlanta Business Radio. Stone Payton here with you this morning. Today's episode is brought to us in part by ARC, American Reprographics Corporation. If you print with it, print on it, or simply want it printed, head on over to arcinatlanta.com. Or better yet, reach out to Mindy Godwin. Call her directly. Let her know that Stone sent you. 770-394-2465. You're in for a real treat. We got a studio full. We got paparazzi. We got the crowds. We got the photos. And we have three great guests this morning. First up on Atlanta Business Radio, please join me in welcoming back to the Business RadioX microphone, Principal with Carabiner Communications, Mr. Peter Barron. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Stone. It's awesome to be here. Thank
you.
Well,
we are delighted to have you, and it's happy birthday, right? Happy 15th birthday?
That's right. We're now spotty teenagers.
So tell us a little bit about that and the journey to get there, man.
It's been a fun journey. There's 29 of us in the company. We have 25 B2B, mostly tech and life science clients, and we're loving it. We're helping them grow and find customers and clients, and that's what turns us on. We're passionate about that.
Now, did you have the foresight, the forethought to go after tech and life sciences, or did you just sort of migrate in that direction over time?
Well, I actually sold my last company in 2000. It was called Socket PR, and it was a tech company. So, But I started my career in New York on Madison Avenue doing general marketing, and realized very quickly I needed to specialize. So moved to Atlanta, got a job with a software company, and the rest is history. Kind of turned into a little bit of a nerd.
So when you live through history like that, a lot comes and goes. You see a lot of changes. What kind of changes have you seen of note over those 15 years, those trends and things that are different now than they used to be?
Well, probably the biggest software change I've seen is when I first came here, my client was Peachtree Software, and they were going from selling software on kind of a small mainframe computer. The PC was brand new. This was 1985. And
I had black hair in 1985.
I think we all may have done that. But you went from having software that was thousands of dollars to $199 for lots of modules. And then, of course, when the internet came around, we started to figure out, well, you don't really need to own the software. You could rent it. So now, of course, with SaaS, it's subscription-based software, and that's completely changed how we get our technology now.
And is that is your focus to this day, is life sciences and tech? Is that your lane, kind of?
That's our lane. We love it. Business services, too, that support those industries, but primarily those are our clients.
So how does that come about? Do you have people out there shaking the trees? People find you because you've been at it so long. How do you get your new business?
People find us because we've been at it so long. Plus, our team, there's 29 of us, and all the people in the company are at least 20 years experience and have either worked for a corporation or another agency, decided that they need to do things a little differently. We're a hybrid firm. And so we provide the opportunity for people with lots of experience to work from anywhere they want. We have a flexible office environment. Yeah. So, but it gets senior people in these roles that are very hands-on with clients, and they love that.
So I suspect there are roles, jobs, areas of responsibility that didn't even exist in 1985. I don't know, like there are things that you have to include in your campaigns and in your go-to-market strategy that maybe that field didn't even exist, or that area of expertise wasn't necessary. Am I right? There's things.
Yeah, social media is probably the biggest one, right?
Right.
Talk to people without really ever meeting them. Relationships are still at the core. You can't really ultimately succeed and have people believe what you're saying unless there's a relationship of some form in there. And that's been kind of fun to see that evolve.
Now, have you also had to change personally? Are you doing less of the work now and more of the recruiting, development, overseeing kind of?
Yes, I am.
So speak to that transition a little bit, if you will.
Yeah. So I'm not sure I initially really loved what we call in the business development, but I do now. I just really like meeting people. So I tend to network a lot. I go to things like Venture Atlanta or CEO Council or some of the tag events. And I love to meet people. And I'm always interested in what they do or what they're trying to accomplish. Some of our clients are startups. Many of them are not. They're high growth companies. But it's so fun to hear what their challenge is, where they want to go. And I get really wrapped up in that. And that, I think, helps with our business development too. They know that we can come in and understand where it hurts and what we can do to help.
So tell us a little bit about that process. Early in an engagement, when people are just sort of exploring the idea, what are those conversations like? What are those early discussions like?
Well, I can tell you specific about one. We got somebody called us from San Francisco, of all places.
Wow.
There's lots of help there, but why are they calling us here in Atlanta?
Yeah.
I think probably because of our price advantage. Great talent here, not as expensive to live and work here, and yet we can do the same work that they can get in San Francisco without the competition. So the early discussions there have been around we're not getting the attention that we need from the media. They're very focused on the automotive space. Mm-hmm. We've got a 3D imaging technology. And they've been around for a few years, but they're not getting the attention that they want. They've tried various ways. So there's usually some sort of pain that we can explore. Well, should people be interested in you? What do you have? Is it anything that people want to buy? And if we uncover enough that's substantial value, and then we think that there's a story to be told, we can help them dig into that. A lot of times they're not telling the story in the right way, and so we do a good bit of messaging and positioning work with them too.
And if someone from even traditional media, I know the answer for Business RadioX and locally here, but if someone from more traditional media, if they hear from a Peter or a Carabiner about a story that they should entertain, it's a notch or two up in terms of credibility. We're going to give more so than if somebody from the marketing department of firm XYZ reaches out. Is that true?
I think so, probably because we're doing it all the time.
Right.
You can certainly pitch your own story, but you're generally only be pitching your own story.
Right.
You know, we're doing it for 25 clients all the time, and the relationships are key for us. We're going to be calling them tomorrow and the next year, so we're careful that what we bring to them we think is really going to be good.
Well, I know that's the case here just locally, and I know we're kind of alternative media in some regards, but we know if we get a request from a Carabiner, that's going to be a solid guest. They're going to have a great story, and it sounds like you have that reputation across a lot of different channels.
Well, we try to foster that, but yes, thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
That's our aim and goal.
So, let's talk about us some more, since it's my show. No, we have a little bit of an editorial calendar in our world, right? Maybe not as sophisticated and nailed down as some media outlets. Is there like a season or a cycle to your work as well? Like, for instance, we're kind of coming into the holiday season. Are there things that you are having your clients do, or that you might recommend other firms be thinking about coming into the holidays? Are there some focus areas or some things we should focus on?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a time to really avoid pitching your story. It's just very busy, and people aren't paying attention so much to media or trade media specifically. They're going to the beach for Thanksgiving. They're traveling for Christmas. This gap is generally not a great time. One exception to that, historically, a lot of people know that HP, they're not as strong as they used to be, but would always make their announcements during this sort of lull because nobody else was. So it's a great time for planning, to get your strategy ready, to queue things up so that you can go fast and hard starting in January. And then, of course, there's a little bit of a lull in the summer when people aren't paying much attention. So it really kind of should go around. Are people listening to the media sources that they trust? Are they doing something else? Are they preoccupied?
So you mentioned a term, and I don't want to assume here, trade media. What do you mean by trade media? Are these the specific outlets that may be unique to, I don't know, the water filtering industry, or like a specific niche? Yeah.
So one of our clients, for instance, Ideology, has technology that is used by banks, so they can sign up customers. Well, a lot of times banks, every time they need to know that you are who you say you are. So they need to be able to verify your identity. Well, there's a whole list of trade publications that people in that space read. They read them probably more diligently. And when I say read, it's not paper-based. They're usually online.
Right.
Before they perhaps would read the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, our national business publication. So they're staying very close to their trades. And then they're adding to that by understanding what the general business environment is.
Okay, that's an important thing I'd like to dive into a little bit. So it's fun, it's sexy, it's kind of exciting to tell everybody at the family reunion or the cocktail party, I got a little write-up in the Wall Street Journal, or I was asked to contribute to a Forbes article. But if I am in a specific niche, I may get better results out of something like that, like a trade publication that maybe 9% of the people never heard of, but those are my people, right?
Absolutely. You're going to find more customers doing it that way because your customers are also looking for content that is going to help them buy. There are exceptions. One of our clients, Pain Care Labs, appeared on Shark Tank a number of years ago, and it did more for their sales than you could imagine.
Right.
There are some exceptions. Yeah.
So what do you find the most rewarding? What's the most fun for you now that you're well beyond 15 years in it, but what's the most fun for you?
Fun for me is to see a company come in as a client and have their revenues really, really spike, and perhaps have an exit. A lot of them are venture funded, and so they like to take that money off the table, or be acquired. That quite often happens with our clients. That's fun to see that. Then we know that we're doing good.
So if I'm a tech firm, a life sciences firm, and we've been hanging out with some of them, we've been doing some capturing some conversations down at ATDC a lot, at least in the startup. If I'm in that world, what are some things happening in my shop or some signals I should look for that suggest to me, you know what, maybe I ought to reach out and talk to Peter or somebody on his team. Maybe it's time we really put some energy into this. Yeah,
I think a good signal there is, how am I doing competitively? Is somebody else kicking sand in my face? Do I see more of them than I see of me? And that's a really quick indicator. And often the case is, I'm not really doing as well as I could. And that's a good time to look over and ask us, or just re-examine what you're doing already. You may have good talent on your team, but it may be important to kind of reevaluate how you're going to market.
And so it might be an appropriate bond, an appropriate working relationship if I don't have anyone at all on my team responsible for some of these things. But even if I do have a marketing person or a marketing team, you guys are no stranger to collaborating with internal teams, right?
It's much better when there's an internal team.
Okay.
It's harder for us when there's not.
Oh, okay.
We love to supplement folks who know what they're doing, and so that we can deliver our specific value.
So you mentioned it might be a little crowded at the moment. Maybe now is not a great time to try to get that cool story out there. Is it maybe an exception, or is it maybe good timing to come in and talk about the work we're doing in the community, or some sort of special social kind of impact that we feel like we're having or want to have? Is that good timing for this time of year?
Softer stories? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they have maybe a longer life as well. Plus, you sort of fold that in with the fact that the largest adult generation in the workforce right now is the millennial workforce.
Wow, that just scared the bejesus out of me. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to change. And one of the things that they require is authenticity. And they want to know that they're working with companies that have similar values to theirs. And a great way to demonstrate that is to show what you're doing in the community. So often companies are very quiet about that. And there's no need for that. They can definitely talk about it.
So you mentioned a couple of times during the conversation this idea of high growth. What are some of the challenges that high growth companies encounter that maybe they don't even see coming, that you probably roll your eyes and go, yep, here we go again. I could have told you this was going to happen.
Well, there's two sides to that coin. One is that they become very confident in their ability to grow and ignore ones they're getting in the market, thinking, well, I'll just keep moving quick. I'll never look over my shoulder. And that's usually a mistake. The other mistake is kind of that, but a little differently, is what you're always looking over your shoulder. You're always worried about what somebody else is doing as they enter the marketplace, and unhinging yourself a little bit from what you're doing. So yes, so stick to your knitting. That's an old phrase, right? But be aware of what's going on and don't be arrogant. We've seen too many big companies get to the point where they think they're unassailable, and then you turn around a few years later and they're not.
So what's next for you guys? Where are you going to be putting your energy going into 2020? You got a few things that's okay to share that you're going to be focusing on?
The one thing I can share is we're opening an office in Nashville. That's a great market for us.
And there's the hot chicken. Right?
I love that. Yeah. And that's come to Atlanta too. I love the hot chicken there. It's a great market. There's a lot of healthcare technology specifically there, and we're very interested in that. I
did not know that. Yeah. So that's going to be an exciting time for you. And then you've got to eat some of your own chili, right? You got to look out for some of the things that maybe, are a little different as you continue to grow and expand.
We do. We're obviously going to market differently than we used to. We're benefiting from that. I mentioned earlier we got the lead in from San Francisco. That's not because I networked in San Francisco. It's a result of our digital marketing. So
yeah. All right. So before we wrap, let's help the millennials and younger out a little bit. Give them some insight from a guy who's been there, done that, has a pretty good perspective on the entire landscape. What counsel, if any, do you have to offer that young person who's seriously considering, I think I may want a career in this field?
I'd say two things to you. One is spend some time to become a solid writer. It sounds old-fashioned,
right?
But being a great communicator is really important. And so much of our communication is text-based. The other thing I would say is find an area of specialty, kind of tooting my own horn, but find something that you love that's specialized and invest in that.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming down and sharing your story. If some of our listeners want to reach out and have a conversation with you or someone on your team, what is the best way for them to do that? Whatever's appropriate. I don't know if it's email, LinkedIn, website, whatever.
We would love to help anybody that's interested in trying to figure out a career in marketing or otherwise. And so through our website, carabinercommunications.com, you can get to us through there or through LinkedIn. That's always easy. A great way to get to me is through LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Well, congratulations on the continued success and the momentum, and thanks so much for coming down and hanging with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
Yeah. Hey, stay with us. We're going to visit with a couple more folks.
Yeah, I'd love to.
All right. Next up on Atlanta Business Radio, we have with us the owner, the chief cook and bottle washer, the grand poobah of DP Global Media, Miss Denise Powell. How are you?
I am great, Stone. Thank you. Thank you for
we are
me.
Delighted to have you. Before we dive into your work and how you're trying to get out there and help folks, what'd you learn in that last segment?
Well, for one thing, one thing that I really know is very important is the importance of becoming a good writer, because that's what I do. So I know how important that is to marketing, communications, and to everything that I've done this year concerning the Unity Day and what I'm here to talk with you about.
All right, so let's talk about me some more for a minute, because again, it is my show, right? So my kid is studying to be a graphic artist, and I think, of course, every crow thinks his own white as snow, my wife says. I think she's fantastic. But she did recently have to do some sort of writing assignment. She got some very positive strokes, and she got that same kind of feedback from her instructors at her school that if you can do this and write and communicate with the graphic-y people and the writer people, it's really going to give you a leg up. And it sounds like you two would second that emotion.
Absolutely. Huh? Yes, definitely.
All right. So tell us a little bit about DP Global Media, mission, purpose. What are you out there trying to do for folks?
Okay. Well, DP Global Media is a 5-year-old company, so we're still pretty new. And what we do is make other people look better than they look at the present time. Our slogan is bringing you into focus. And what I primarily work with people on is, if a person needs a new headshot, because I do concentrate mostly on business to business. If you need a new headshot, if you need a video ad that's a professional ad that brings people into your workspace and shows people what you do, that's what we do. And if you don't have a workspace, then we can bring you into ours, where we work at the AEI Startup Factory over in Lithonia.
Wow. All right. So your background is you come from behind the camera. You're technician, you know how to operate the camera.
Absolutely. Yes. I've been working. My foundation is writing. I've been a technical writer editor for the federal government.
Oh my, you must have
years.
The patience of Job.
Absolutely.
I interviewed for one of those jobs. I'm not a good fit for that. It turns out.
Yes. But, in my focus there with technical writing and with marketing and photography is really my love. And of course, being in the new Hollywood, I want to sell a screenplay. I want to,
Wow.
I work on those types of projects for myself and for other individuals, doing short films and what have you. So
have you found a lane? Have you found an industry niche or a size of company that just is a super good fit? Or are you still kind of feeling your way in that regard? Or?
I would enjoy the opportunity to work more with the governmental entities or, the municipalities.
You really are a special kind of person, Denise.
Yes.
You actually embrace the idea of working with government. I love it.
I do. I do. Because I understand it, having worked for the government. I'm a Navy veteran. I was a naval officer. So I get it. And I know that it's an area where they're looking for fresh ideas and coming out of a lot of things are digitized and what have you, but a lot are not. So there's a need there for what we have. And I enjoy working with small businesses and entrepreneurs as well. But I think a healthy balance of that is important if you want to survive as a business.
Yeah. So have you cracked the code yet, or have you begun to explore the approach, how to go get that government work? Have you looked into that and gotten certified or exploring that whole thing?
Yes, we're working county by county, first going with the counties that are closest around us. We work out of Rockdale and DeKalb County primarily. And so those have really been our focus areas so far.
Nice. Okay. So the small business, the speaker, the author, the consultant, the smaller marketing agency, these folks, they need graphic treatment for what they're doing. They probably do need the headshots, the bios, the good, solid, crisp, succinct, compelling writing. So this is right in your wheelhouse, yes?
Absolutely. Yes. And yes, what we do is it's a full consultation type of environment that we do. If everything from developing the script, if that's what's necessary if that's what the person is looking for a video ad, right. We develop the script, figure out who their true market is so that we can design the ad around that.
All right. So let's say you get I have this question. So we're working with I don't want to put a negative pejorative on a certain type of profession, but let's just say totally hypothetically, you get a CPA who is a great practitioner, maybe not so great at delivering compelling verbiage from a script. You find ways to work around that and capitalize on their strengths and find other ways to bring their strengths in.
And I think that it's important to find out, like the gentleman here was saying, what hurts, who they're really trying to go after that they're not touching, who we can help them get closer to. If they want to improve the number of people who they do taxes for, maybe perhaps to the family audience or what have you, the family market or the small business market to help them explore the new tax codes and how that can help them improve their bottom line.
So it probably didn't take you nearly as long as it took me and Peter, but you figured out, go figure out what they need and want and deliver that instead of just rushing in with your solution.
Well, I think that's what's most important. Yeah. Like, what hurts, what people need as opposed to trying to push something down their throat that they don't.
All right. So tell us about this Unity Day. What's it? The International Unity Day.
Yes.
Tell us about this.
Yes. I'm so excited to be able to let you know how that went, because it was 2 weeks ago on November 16th, and we had a fabulous time at the AEI Startup Factory.
And where is this again? You mentioned it earlier.
It's in Lithonia, in the newly incorporated city of Stonecrest, at the Stonecrest Mall.
Nice.
And what was so phenomenal about it is actually the city of Stonecrest, at about 50,000 people, is about 94% African American. But what we did for that newly incorporated city was bring the international community to Stonecrest. It was a super day. I wish you'd been there. We had Mexican dance teams. We had a Vietnamese dance team, African drum and dance. We had live entertainment from all across everybody all across the spectrum. And we also had 3 very great workshops one on how to become an author in 2020. Mm-hmm. And that was well attended. We had one on living globally that was basically put on by 3 millennials who have lived abroad, and they gave some great perspectives. And our nonprofit partner, the American Institute for Resource and Human Development, gave a workshop on global education, because what they do is they take a group of teachers who are both local and from around the country, about 20 teachers that they took this summer over to Tanzania and Ghana to work in the schools there. And so they got the perspective of the teachers in Tanzania and Ghana, as well as bringing their approaches to improving education, different parts of education like testing.
So it was a raging success. What was the impetus? Why did you do this?
Well, the main reason that I decided to do the International Unity Day was, earlier this year, I published a book called Welcome to the A Smart ATLian's Guide to Life in Metro Atlanta. And in my research for putting together Welcome to the A, I found out how the international community has grown so significantly here, especially over the past, since really the last U.S. Census. Since 2000, between 2010 and now, it's been really quite phenomenal. The population growth in general, but then the international population growth is just something that I feel like the small business community and the business community in particular should really pay attention to, because that's a large group of people that I think come in and they just seem to operate in silos, I've noticed here. And coming from Florida, I'm a Florida native, people tend to blend more. And so that's my real motivation, is to get people to blend more and to be more of, for the companies that participated, we had over 40 companies who came out as vendors and sponsors, and they wanted to be a part of this because they wanted to expose themselves to this growing population and this growing population to them.
So I would think that this growing group of people represents tremendous opportunity
Absolutely.
For the small, medium-sized business. And I was trying to put myself in the shoes of some of these folks. If I found myself in a different country, I could see me migrating toward all the other, I don't know, middle-aged white men from America, right? And we'd all hang out at the same place. We'd drink coffee at the same place. Mm-hmm. And so that happens in reverse as well.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah. You can tell by just when you visit various parts of town, how people tend to live in certain places. Of course, you live where you can afford, but you also tend toward your culture.
And we don't really, well, I'm operating under the impression, it's not like we don't want to rob them of that rich culture. We just want to layer on top of that more inclusion, more diversity, and opportunity to collaborate and serve. In my little world, it could be maybe a series or a show focused on international business,
Yes,
right? That would be a
exactly.
way for us to participate in that regard,
yes,
right?
absolutely. And it's healthy for everyone because our kids go to school with kids from various countries.
Mm-hmm.
So why not carry that over into the weekend and
Right.
the opportunity to be able to share holidays that we could find more in common and just find
And more reasons to have a
more
cocktail.
of a comfort level.
Right? If I find out about such and such holiday in Morocco, then that's more reasons to have a cocktail, right?
Right.
Have a
And
party.
just have and just be able to just enjoy each other and be able to find a comfort level so that we can do the things that we do just within our own cultures. We can do those together.
Right. Okay, so you're going to keep doing this? You're going to do this annually? You're going to do it next year, the year after?
Absolutely. Yes. It was very tremendously successful for something that we planned within a 6-month period. We had a little over 300 people there. Mm-hmm. We had a short film showcase that was very well attended, and it was that focused on international and cultural and lifestyle differences. And it was very, very popular. So we are definitely going to do it again.
Fantastic. All right. So writing the book, did it come together real easy? Did you have some challenges in getting this put together and out there? What was that experience like?
I would say it came together very easily because I really wanted to do it. And as a transplant, I knew what my focus area should be. They basically the book itself focuses on people who have not lived here before and what they should ask themselves before they even consider moving here so that they're not caught by surprise. And then once you get here, how to set up and become a legitimate Georgia citizen. And, and that's important, getting your driver's license on time and just operating within the guidelines of Georgia law and what have you, so that you don't incur fines and fees and what have you that are not necessary. And then lastly, once you get here, how to really engage and become a true Georgia citizen by being more involved in the community. And, by going to your county commission meetings, your city commission meetings, coming out to events, and doing like I did as a transplant, host your own event and bring people together.
Yeah, choose yourself. I love it. So all of these government entities that we've talked about, and you have a real knack, I think it sounds like, for collaborating with those folks, they should all be providing this book to people.
I would love that. I'm working on it. Help me.
Yeah. Well, I know a guy. Now, he doesn't really specialize in this, but I bet he's got some specialized expertise and knowledge on how to get this book in the right hands.
I'd love to talk with him.
I'm going to put you in touch with him.
Great.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, keep up the good work. Now, for your day-to-day work, tell us a little bit more about that and who we should be on the lookout for that, we say, what, based on what you're telling me, Joe, maybe you ought to give Denise a ring.
Yes. Well, we can be contacted via our website at DP Global Media. And we can be contacted across social media. My direct email is denisepowell.dpm@gmail.com. And I'm on Facebook. We have an International Unity Day Facebook page, Instagram page.
You got to get geared up for next year, right?
Absolutely.
You got to start planning like the day
yes,
after. Okay, yes. So what's happening in my world that tells me, what, I need to reach out to Denise and her crew. What's going on in my world that suggests that I need to do that?
Well,
writing a book, thinking about writing a book. Is that one of the things?
Right. That, and if you have a new business, we're actually going to do a boss day. Well, for one thing, on January 15th, we're planning an industry, vision board party. Sorry.
Okay.
We're planning that at the AEI Startup Factory to get people off the ground with their thought processes.
And sometimes that's all people need, right? A little well, my mom would say kick in the pants, but just a little.
Yes. And it's going to be a little different because we're going to have some entertainment while we're there. We're going to have some spoken word and that type of thing. And we're also having a boss day probably in the month of February, wherein we're going to allow some companies who want to participate the opportunity to come to us. And it'll be a networking session as well as an opportunity to get a package wherein you can get your headshot that day. We'll have a background set up and you'll be able to get a headshot done. We can consult with you on your resume, help you do an initial video, just like an on the spot type video.
There is no moss gathering under your feet.
None whatsoever.
You don't sit around wondering, I wonder how we're going to build the next 5 relationships or where are our next 3 clients. You just go get them.
Well, we just know that there are hungry people out here, and there's no need to let them sit around and wonder what to do. We can help them.
Fantastic. All right, one more time. Coordinates, if someone wants to reach out and have a conversation, email, whatever.
Yes. Okay. DP Global Media, you can fill out a contact sheet and the contact sheet there and contact us, or you can reach out to me at denisepowell.dpm@gmail.com, or of course, social media at Denise Powell, or International Unity Day 2019 on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram.
And we'll all look forward to International Unity Day 2020.
I'm looking forward to seeing you all.
All right. Marvelous. Hey, stay with us. We're going to visit with one more guest.
Great. Thank you.
All right. It's time for our headliner. He's been very patient. He's been taking notes. He's been nodding his head, smiling, giving everybody the thumbs up. Please join me in welcoming to the show founder and managing director with 3 Owl, Mr. David Feldman. How are you, man?
Doing well. Thank you for having me on the show. And I wish I went to International Unity Day this year. That sounded amazing. And congratulations on your first event being such a success.
Thank you.
All right. So 3 Owl, mission, purpose. What are you out there trying to do for folks, man?
Yeah. So 3 Owl, we've been around for 5 years now. We are a full service creative agency, which means we will work with businesses as early on as helping them come up with their name, connecting that to their visual identity and communication strategy, and then designing, building their website, and then giving them the tools to grow and to measure their growth. So we're very much started with a lot of research, which is foundational to everything we do, and then make sure the strategy is connected all the way through from the name down to how we're going to grow the business.
And you've got at least one person on your team who can write. Right, we've established that. That is important.
Absolutely. We brag about it, that we have somebody whose job it is just to write. So we really believe in having an excellent copywriter who's also our head strategist. But we can't do a project without him. There's always a joke. He went out of town and we sent a comic out that our copywriter's gone for a day and we're going to survive. So that's always, it's a big deal to have one, and they're really important.
So this arena strikes me as a little bit crowded. Now, once you dive in and you start talking to people, you find that they often will specialize, and kind of stay in a lane or two. But at first blush, it seems like a very crowded arena. Am I reading that right? And if so, what do you guys do? How do you differentiate yourselves from maybe other participants in the market?
Yeah, that's a conversation we have with our team regularly, is how do we differentiate? And what we're seeing is that there's a lot of silos. So we see creative agencies that will design a beautiful logo and give you a great looking PDF that's got your brand in it. And then we see web design and web development agencies, and then other ones that help you grow your business. But being able to call the shots from the beginning to the end, that's what we really look at. So we really focus on how can we connect everything. So for us, let's say you need a new name. We make sure that there's no namespace clutter. So once you have an Instagram account and a URL, you're already set up to, beat the game with your search engine optimization by owning the URL. We make sure that your visual identity will connect to your website, and that it's going to be developed well and it's going to work well. Really for us, when the website launches, we say, hey, this is day one. A lot of folks will say, here's your site. Good luck. I'm already talking about phase 2 and phase 3 with all of our clients. So what comes next? We're setting you up for success with a communication strategy. We're setting you up for success with a great website. And something we do when we look at websites, And I've been preaching about this. We do a lot of stuff on WordPress. WordPress used to be a blogging platform. It's turned into a content management system, which is kind of how people see it. But there's this one chart online called the Marketing Tools Supergraph, or the Super Map, that essentially shows 15,000 different marketing tools that are out there. So I don't like talking to people about tools. I like talking to people about how do you think about your tools. But what we'll see is our clients are using 10, 20 different tools. And I say, hey, like, you realize we can connect all of these and they can all connect to your website. Right there, you can monetize how many hours you're saving a week, a month, a year to actually think about your business. So something that we'll do in our research is figure out for our music venue clients, for example, hey, it looks like you got tickets selling on Ticketmaster as well as a local company called Fresh Ticks. We did this for a client called Center Stage. How many hours is your really smart marketing person doing data entry? So we were the first team to actually connect Ticketmaster, this international company, and Fresh Ticks, this local company in Atlanta, have the two systems talk to each other and automatically populate the site. So we built a brand for them. If you go to Center Stage, you'll see our branding everywhere, the whole visual design system we built. But when we hit sync on their site, it automatically populated every event between two different ticketing systems. And now they can actually focus on their social, and their marketing person, she's saving 10 hours a week. So that's where we really differentiate ourselves, is we never just say, hey, like, here's your website, see you later. Here's your logo, see you later. We really love building these long-term marketing partnerships.
So as an entrepreneur, I'm the number 2 guy in kind of a small media firm, and we're growing. To me, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy having conversations about marketing and growing and some of the creative stuff. But I guess more recently for me, the more sobering reality for me is I'll call it the price and risk of failure. Like, yeah, it's fun and sexy and we hope we get it right. But if you screw this up, you could really damage your brand, right?
Yeah, and are you looking more at our personal 3-Owl brand or for our clients?
No, I'm thinking about, like, as a client, as someone who would consume services like you provide. Man, the stakes, I guess, are higher than I guess I used to realize or be willing to tell myself.
Yeah, so for 3-Owl, the stakes are high for us. We're a small company.
Right.
We're a team of 8. We've been around for 5 years, which is, for a digital agency, the internet's...
Yeah, you're an old guy.
We're old, yeah. Like, and we always joke about it that, hey, like, nobody's an expert on the internet. If you've been around for 30 years, the internet's not been around that long.
Right,
so the expertise, it's not that long. Yeah, the stakes, it depends on what we're looking at. We had a really high stakes project, perhaps our highest stakes project that we did that just launched November 1st. Great American Cookie Company came to us and said, hey, we've been doing our research, and they've been future-proofing, which I think is exactly what any company needs to do. We'll talk more about that.
Yes, please, because I don't even know what that is, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'm big on that. So they came to me, and I just saw, oh, good job. You're thinking about next steps for the next 3 years. But they said, look, we're seeing Tiff's Treats and Insomnia Cookies. We're seeing all these companies that are delivering cookies. And we're not talking about online ordering, courier. We're not talking about online ordering. We're talking about FedEx shipping cookies. So we're seeing this growth with all these companies that are shipping overnight all across the country. And they said, we want to get into that market. We ship raw dough to all of our local stores, but I want somebody to be able to go online, order a box of cookies. We want to bake it that day and ship it out. And this was in August. They reached out to us and they said, strategically, we want to hit the holiday season. And I did the math. I said, that's 10 weeks from now. But you're right. You should hit the holiday season, and we can do it. So that project was kind of make or break. We have to launch November 1st. They need to hit the holiday season. Everything needs to work. And that project I loved because we had to connect so many different systems, including having our website talk to their plant to make sure that they knew how many pounds of cookie dough to roll out that morning when they were going to bake cookies so there would be no waste. So what we brought to them was a lot of experience in connecting systems and knowing that we couldn't have any unknowns going into the project. So we did as much as we could in parallel. Our development team and our design team and our photography team all worked at the same time. And in the end, we had 2 weeks left to test. So I was able to go on to our site and ship my parents some cookies and say, hey, how did the packaging look? Did the message I write you appear that I wrote on the website? And they've been launched since November 1st and have seen growth week over week. So I'm excited that they've got the proof of concept and we can keep scaling up. But the stakes were so high because they're thinking about the future of their business. They hired people for their plant. They took a section of their plant to actually bake cookies. So I love the high stakes project. That's the kind of stuff that keeps me going and really gets me fired up. But the success was there, and we can talk about future-proofing there, too.
Well, I would like to in just a moment, but going back to high stakes. So high stakes for you as a firm, and obviously it's going really well. High stakes for Great American. I mean, they've got a nice established brand, and if they'd have gone to, Stone and Joe Creative, the whole thing would have blown up. Because I mean, it sounds to me like you're a process consultant, you're a therapist, you're
the therapist
creative.
part is right on, yeah.
But again, it's coming very clear to me that it's not just the financial investment, the time investment as an entrepreneur, as a leader in my little business. Man, I got to make the right decision on who to work with on this kind of stuff. These are very important decisions, and it can't be just based on, I really like that guy, and that, this is a very important set of decisions for business people to make.
Yeah, it is. And that's, with that project, I kept thinking that if they went to just a web design team, they could have had a site that looked really good. I knew that we had to partner with somebody else to help build their systems for their plant. So in a 48-hour period, we evaluated different inventory management systems, built a test WordPress site, and made sure that our system could talk to their system the way it had to work. So I knew that I had like 2 days to do that in order to make the recommendation. So I'm really happy they came to us, just because on the surface, it's built us a basic online ordering site, but there were so many different elements there. So I think they came to us because we'd done work with their chief marketing officer at another company. So she knew we knew all the connections. So really, it's her to give the credit to, because she knew the right team to hire.
Now, would it be fair to characterize the Atlanta market as sort of a creative hub? And the reason I'm asking is, if so, do you think you're going to find additional opportunities in the future to collaborate with other people in and around your space to help these more enterprise level clients?
I love Atlanta's creative community. I feel like I've been a part of it since I graduated in 2008, the worst year ever to graduate. I've seen the city's creative community really grow. We had a chip on our shoulder for a long time, especially in the early 2010s. We've seen, with more films being filmed here, with more artists moving here, cost of living, I've seen this creative community grow, and we're proud to have a creative community. And I see people moving to Atlanta saying, hey, I moved from, this city on the West Coast where, I moved from Los Angeles where I couldn't get a meeting with anybody in the creative community because everything's so siloed. I see a lot more collaboration happening here. I have meetings with other agency owners. I feel like the rising tide lifts all ships. And that's been really positive as far as seeing this creative community grow. So I love collaborating with other folks. And I think Atlanta's really unique there, where I see more agencies opening, more creatives moving here, more musicians moving here. So I think that's something very unique to our city. I'm sure that you talk about in the Welcome to the A book. But I think that's what's become really special around Atlanta, is we've grown this creative community really over this last decade.
Okay. Tell me about future proofing. What do you mean by that?
Right. Well, no one's an expert in the internet, but we do know that things are changing so rapidly. 10 years ago, if you had a site built, you wouldn't even talk about mobile. And now if we look at our restaurant clients, you get 80% of your traffic on a Friday is on a mobile device. So that's a huge change right there. We're seeing it in the restaurant space, for example. Do you remember being able to sit in your living room, look at all the restaurants, and order something on Uber Eats and have it there 30 minutes later? Like, this is all very new. So we're looking at when you have all this noise and all these different ways to order online, e-commerce, etc., we're looking at how brands can really own their experience online. So when we're talking about future-proofing, if you're a restaurant, you want people to order online from your site with your brand, with your pictures, with the correct menu items, compared to ordering from a third party. That goes with anything e-commerce related. Same thing with our education clients. When I was looking at colleges, I was not going to their websites. I was not looking at Instagram. I want to know what the students look like now. So again, we really want to change what a virtual tour looks like. So really forecasting what technology is coming out there. There's a big movement around ADA compliance, which is somebody who has a handicap. Can they use your site correctly? Apple just released their newest version of their operating system is very ADA compliant. So if you need to have a screen reader, or if you want to go into a mode where there's higher contrast. We're seeing that happen now with Apple and their operating system. We're seeing that for all of our clients too. You have 15% of your audience that's going to have some sort of disability when they visit your site. Make sure that it's easy to read and that it's ADA compliant. So studying all these trends, we can make really good recommendations to our clients and say, hey, like, let's think about 2020, but let's think about 2021 and 2022 as well.
All right, I got to know, what is your backstory? How did you get into this line of work, and why did you choose Atlanta over some of these other markets?
I'm going to give a shout out to Emory. Went there for undergraduate. Went to their business school. I majored in business and in music, so I always had my left brain and right brain fighting from for years. I actually started working at a big marketing agency when I graduated. About 4 months later, I wasn't loving the corporate world. I left, and then the recession happened. I don't think that's why it happened. But I left, went to go work for my dad, just trying to figure things out. I was working in clinical research of all things. But what that allowed me to do was do a lot of hands-on marketing with his company. And I actually got to go work abroad in Russia from 2011 to 2012 as they were looking to expand overseas. So I actually got to build a website in Russian, and wow. I remember calling up a company saying, hey, I need to place a banner ad on a site. And I'm doing this. I'm fluent in Russian, so I'm in my best of my ability trying to figure out the costing to put up a banner ad. But in that time, I continued educating myself because I saw the trends. I saw mobile becoming a bigger trend and online ordering starting to creep up. So in my downtime, took online classes, went back. When I came back to Atlanta, I was project-based with a company, took classes at the Center for Lifelong Learning. So I was always educating myself to, if you will, future-proof myself. And then I started applying for an MBA. And there was a decision I had to make because I had just enough clients to make ends meet. And I realized I could spend 6 figures on getting an MBA or invest that money into a company. And I made the decision to stick around because I tried sending my 3 or 4 clients an email saying, hey, I'm going to go and get an MBA, and I couldn't hit send on it. So from that, I remember doing that, and then a year later making the conscious decision to actually hire somebody versus work twice as much. So essentially cut my salary in half, but said I really want to build a team. So it all started there. I've really been proud of the city of Atlanta itself, and then building a really smart team of creatives around me.
So before we wrap, tell us about ATL Collective and your participation in that. Yeah,
I think ATL Collective is what really got me involved in the city of Atlanta. It started in 2009. I joined in 2010. Essentially, 2 musicians were approached to do an open mic, and they said, we don't need another open mic in this city, but what we'll do is cover an album start to finish with a bunch of local musicians. So people will go see artists that they've never seen before, but they'll know the words to every song. About 150 albums later, which brings us to 2019, and I joined, I think, 5 albums in. We become a nonprofit, so the missions really remained unchanged in my time there. I helped develop a brand for ATL Collective. I got us partnerships with Delta, and we did a show in their flight museum, and we did shows with Atlanta History Center. So I just saw this community where I could just say, hey, Delta's an Atlanta company, and we have Atlanta artists who fly Delta to all around the country. Here's a connection to make. And we, did a show in their airplane hangar. So
very cool.
What happened with ATL Collective was I just saw that I could just figure out where to connect the dots and connect the dots creatively. Also say, hey, like the Atlanta Pop Festival happened in 1970 and Jimi Hendrix played there. So let's do a show around that. And we did that with Atlanta History Center, for example. So there's a lot of great Atlanta music history, and then just this incredible music scene here. So every time you go see an album covered, and we've covered everything from like the Beatles to Beastie Boys to Radiohead to TLC. So we do this huge range of music, and every time I bring friends to a show, they're like, are these all Atlanta musicians? How are they not famous? And that's always the same reactions. We have such a rich music scene. So that's really given me a lot of faith in just the creative community of Atlanta musically, as well as, what I'm seeing in the marketing and advertising community. Quick plug, we're doing our 10-year anniversary party this Thursday at Switchyard's Downtown Club. If you go to atlcollective.org, you can buy a ticket. 3Owl actually did the new brand for ATL Collective as a pro bono project. It's something that we really believe in. Every year we're picking a nonprofit to do a full rebrand and website pro bono.
Really?
So ATL Collective was our client for 2019. So we'll be unveiling that this Thursday.
Well, like so many guests who come through the Business RadioX studios, and like the other two guests that we have here with us this morning, you and your team really do try to put some energy and effort into supporting the community and giving back. Can you speak to that a little bit before we wrap?
Yeah, I just started a volunteer time off policy. So 16 hours, this year was 16 hours per year you can use to volunteer however you'd like. And I've loved that every one of our teammates has gone back to their alma maters, to lecture, to do workshops. We also have a partnership with the New School Atlanta, which is a high school here in Atlanta. And we'll have their kids over for workshops. We'll do lectures there. I go back to Emory's Business School and lecture regularly there too. So I really believe in education and giving back that way. I think there's so much knowledge to go around, and I just get really inspired by seeing these high schoolers and college kids bring such valuable information, have such great questions. So we really focus on giving back through education.
Well, your energy and your enthusiasm and your sincerity, authenticity all come ringing through when we're having the conversation. So keep up the good work. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Where can our listeners reach out and talk with you or somebody on your team about 3Owl or any of these other topics?
Sure. My direct email is david@3owl.agency. If you want to check out our work, it's just 3owl.agency. You can also follow us on Instagram at the same handle. And then ATL Collective is atlcollective.org.
Well, thanks again for sharing your story. And thank you all for coming in and sharing your story this morning.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
All right. We'll see you next time on Atlanta Business Radio.